Hello and welcome to More Time in the Kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make spaghetti bolognese or spag bog. Now spaghetti bolognese is the perfect batch cook meal and it's also perfect for students because it's cheap, it's easy to make, the ingredients are easy to find and you don't need any weird or wonderful equipment to make it. I used to hate saying spag bog, it just doesn't sound appealing, does it? You don't want to eat anything with the word bog in it. But it's one of these things that kind of over time I've just ended up saying because it's faster, easier to say. It's a little bit like my name. My name's Samantha and I used to hate it when I was in primary school if people would call me Sam. Just hate it, took a real offense to it. But as I've grown up, I've just started introducing myself as Sam, especially at work. Partly because it's easier to shout across a room if somebody needs me, but also because foreign people seem to struggle with it. I think some languages don't have the sound tha, so people say Samantha. There's been a couple of times as well that people have thought I've said Martha. I think I've maybe not said sa very clearly, so they just hear Mantha and they're like, oh, she must have said Martha. So yeah, I'd rather people call me Sam than thinking I'm 75 with a name like Martha. Anyway, enough rambling, let's get cooking. So to make this recipe you will need 750 grams of mince. You can use different types of mince for this recipe. This is beef mince, but you could use pork mince, turkey mince, or a vegetarian mince, something like corn. Although I have to say, I have tried making this with corn and it did lack flavour. So you might want to try adding something if you want to make this with corn mince. Maybe add a few chili flakes, something like that to give it a bit more flavour. 2 500 gram cartons of passata. You'll also need 2 onions, red or brown, doesn't really matter. 3 cloves of garlic, 2 peppers, 2 teaspoons of Italian herbs, 2 dessert spoonfuls of Worcester sauce, 2 teaspoons of sugar, a stock pot or cube. You can either use beef, chicken or vegetable. Half a cup of frozen peas, half a cup of frozen sweet corn, and last but not least, some spaghetti or whatever pasta you've got lying around. Right, so I don't know what that was. It looked like I was gonna start rapping or something. Yo, more time in the house. I might literally be the least gangster person to ever have existed. Anyway, right, let's actually start cooking. So we're going to heat a frying pan to medium-high heat and we're going to add in the mince. I'll just stress here as well that you do not need to add any oil to the pan if you're using beef or pork mince. If you're using turkey mince, or I was going to say corn mince as well, but actually you don't have to pre-cook corn mince. If you're using turkey mince, then add some oil. But if it's pork or beef, you're just going to dry fry it. And there's going to be a lot of fat that comes out there. So we're just going to spread this around the pan, make sure it's all evenly spread out, or as much as possible if you're using this much mince. Okay, and we're going to leave that to brown on one side, flip it over, let the other side brown as well. And you should see quite a lot of liquid and fat coming out of this. We're going to get rid of that fat, but what you do not want to do is put it down the sink because that can block your sink. Dispose of it elsewhere. So that's the beef minced browned. You'll see there's still some pink bits. That's fine. It's going to continue cooking in the spaghetti bolognese with the other ingredients. So we're going to turn off the heat now, and you can see that there is a lot of liquid, a lot of fat in there. And that's because I've used some cheap beef mince, keeping true to the spirit of student cooking. So that is what you will get with a cheaper beef mince. But you can see that we've gotten rid of most of the fat and the beef is still going to be nice and tender. We're going to cook it for quite a long time in with the other ingredients. So, you don't have to be too fussy with the beef for this recipe. So now it's just a case of bunging in all your ingredients into a big pot. If you don't have a great big pot, just use 2 smaller pots. That's smart thinking there. Right, so we're going to add in all of our ingredients now, apart from the peas and the sweet corn. The peas and the sweet corn we're going to add in later because they need very little cooking time. All they need is basically just to defrost, really. The peas especially, you don't want to overcook because they will go all grey and mushy. So we're going to turn the hob onto a medium heat, and we're going to put in our beef mince. Just ease it in. Try to too hot. Still hot from when the beef mince was on, so we'll do this quickly. Okay, and make sure that you're not picking up too much of the fat off of there. You're best using a fish slice or something like that, or just a slotted spoon, so that you're not going to pick up all the fat that you've got rid of there. You can boil it to get rid of more fat, but I do find that you lose flavour that way. So yeah, my preferred method is to fry. Also, don't worry if your mince is in big clumps at the moment, because as you continue to mix it, stir in the other ingredients, it's going to break up. Next, you're going to add in your passata and your veggies. A little tip if you don't have a garlic crusher is that you can use the small end of a grater and just grate your garlic in. So now we can add in some of the extra flavouring, so we'll add in our stock pot. Do not make stock up, just stick the stock cube or pot or powder directly into the sauce. We don't want any more water going in there, or you're going to have a horrible watery sauce. And we can add in our 2 teaspoonfuls of sugar. So the sugar here we're just adding because the passata, the tomatoes, are quite acidic, and the sugar was just going to sort of bring that down a little bit and mellow out the flavour. We can also add in our 2 teaspoonfuls of Italian seasoning. There's 1 and 2. And finally, we're going to add in our 2 dessert spoonfuls of Worcester sauce. Always struggle to say Worcester sauce. Partly you can say Worcester or Worcestershire, they're still the same thing. You can also add in some salt and pepper to taste as well. Once the liquid is boiling, just reduce the heat to low and let it simmer for 45 minutes. So my student tip today is to get a job. So whether it is part-time while you're at university, or whether it's a summer job or a bit of both, a job is not only a great way to make a little bit of extra cash, it's also really important to have on your CV nowadays, because I'm sure most people will know that it is not enough to have a degree and nothing else on your CV. You need a bit of experience. But money and something on your CV is not all you're going to get out of a job. You're going to get some world experience, you know, contact with the good old general public, how we love them. And you're also probably going to make friends. Can't say that's a definite. If either your workmates or you yourself is a bit of a wanker, then probably not. But yeah, usually you'll manage to make a friend or two while you're working, and you know, you'll meet people that you wouldn't meet in your course. Maybe people from different walks of life, people of different ages, you know, people from the rich tapestry, whatever. Another thing to look out for if you're still struggling to get work, or even if you are working and you just want an extra bit of cash, is to look out for local events. Generally, they'll be looking for extra people to join in the workforce, particularly during the summer. Lots of events on during the summer. So some examples that I did, one year I worked for the Scottish Golf Open as a traffic marshal. That was an experience. It was very muddy, it rained most of the time, just, we were covered in mud, and I'm sure you know what people are like when they get into cars, they just lose their mind. People were doing some crazy stuff, either just ignoring our advice to go a certain way, just doing what they wanted, people driving down footpaths, all that sort of stuff. All the joys of the Czech Republic, but in cars. Great. Another thing I did was a Black Isle show. So for the first day I worked in a food truck, which was a bit different. Second day I did waitressing, and it was the most intense waitressing I've ever done. It was crazy. By the end of the day I was like covered in like gravy and everything. It was just nuts. Yeah, so generally work like that is very long hours and kind of rough work, but you will get a big lump of cash at the end, which you can't argue with, can you? Towards the end of the cooking time, get some water boiling in a pot and cook your pasta according to pack instructions. When the 45 minutes is up, you want to add in your sweet corn and your peas, and just let those cook for 3 to 4 minutes. Right, so I'm just going to have a quick taste test just to make sure it is up to standard before we plate it up. Okay. Don't want to burn myself. That is a good sauce. I've been making this since I was a student, so it would be a bit upsetting if I hadn't managed to perfect it by the time I got to this age and stage. So yeah, really nice sauce, nice and beefy. You get the tomato as well. Nice cheap sauce, easy to make. Good solid student food. So definitely try it out. Right, so let's get it on a plate. After plating up your pasta, just add a couple of ladle spoonfuls on the top, and if your heart so desires, sprinkle on a little cheese or a lot of cheese. So there you go, there's another cheap and easy batch cook recipe for you to rustle up whenever you fancy. Please be sure to check out my other student recipes if you're a student or you're somebody who's just looking for cheap and easy recipes. And as always, thanks very much for watching to the end, and please like, comment and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content like this in the future. But for now, cheerio, bye! This is beef mince. You can use whatever kind of beef. Bleh.